Okay, good morning, guys. It is 43.6 degrees at 4:14 in the morning on September 7th, day 157, and I'm gonna wake up. All right, good morning again, guys. Ooh. All right, very good morning again, guys. It is 5:50 in the morning. That is 10 to 6. It's 44.2 degrees. Just leaving camp. For those of you exceptionally observant viewers, you may have noticed I woke up a little early this morning. Did set my alarm for 4 instead of 4:30 this morning on account of my early arrival into camp last night, although it doesn't look like I'm really leaving camp so much earlier than usual. So, best laid plans. Speaking of best laid plans, though, on a less sarcastic note, I woke up with minimal condensation this morning, which was really, really nice. I did have some, for sure, but it seemed that condensation which I experienced was just a result of the temperature, really, more than the environment. Like, what I mean by that, of course, is like the body just produces humidity, and it'll pass through the sleeping bag, and then once it hits those cold temperatures, just condense on the outside of the sleeping bag, which is a bummer, but there's really no way around that whatsoever. I mean, there are some really tricky moves you could pull, but I don't really pull those moves. Those moves, of course, would be bringing like a second sleeping bag or some kind of synthetic sleeping bag or something to lay over top of your main sleeping bag so that your body moisture would move through your down sleeping bag, move through the synthetic sleeping bag, and then condense on the outside of the synthetic sleeping bag so that you're saturating a synthetic material which will maintain its insulative properties irrespective of moisture. Oh my gosh, this is getting way too deep for this early in the morning. I don't know if you followed that, drop a comment. Anyways, yeah, so minimal condensation last night, although I can see, and I'm sure you won't be able to see in the low light, that valley right next to camp is totally socked in with moisture and mist, which is a little concerning because I think the next few nights, just in my rough penciling, it looks like I'll be camped down in some semblance of valley. So, well, whatever. All you can do is all you can do, and I maintained a decently dry sleeping bag last night, so that's pretty good. Today, I have like 8 or 9 miles before hitting Dishpan Gap, which is, again, the junction at which I'll diverge from the PCT for the Airplane Lake fire closure. And then I'll be on that alternate for some 20-ish miles, give or take. And then another few miles back on the PCT before reaching what I expect will be home for the night. So all up, looking at somewhere in like the low 30s probably for distance today. But on account of my switching from far out to Gaia exclusively for navigation, I have less accessible means of calculating the projected cumulative ascent and descent. So no real word on how much climbing I'll be doing, but I expect it'll be a decent amount. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and get moving because I'm sure this has been a plenty long check-in, and I'll talk to you guys a little later. All right, good evening, guys. It is 47.6 degrees. It's getting chilly. 6:07 in the evening. Whew, and I've made it just about. It's up in my sights here behind the camera to home for the night. Mile 2508.7, just on the trail north side of, well, very near White Pass. Technically not White Pass that I crossed, but man, yep, that's gonna be home. So just on the trail north side of this pass, that's where it got all this crazy, like, super low clouds and everything that you can kind of see around. But I gotta be honest, man, super proud of myself today. That was 29 miles. Well, so this morning I predicted that I'd be going somewhere 30 low. I should back up and say that over at the trail south side of the fire closure, ran into a young Forest Service fella who is, I assume, posted up there just to make sure hikers aren't going through the closure. And I was talking to him about, you know, the closure just briefly and what's going on and all that. And he's like, "Oh, dude, you got to go over this blue lake way. It's really, really, really beautiful." And you saw those clips of, I mean, that lake that looked like it should be called a blue lake. A very different, by the way, just for the record, a very different blue lake than the blue lake, which has a fire closure further north. But yeah, so I hadn't realized that the itinerary, the route which I had plotted, could have been cut by like almost 4 miles by going across that blue lake. So that's obviously what I did, was cut that 4 miles to go by that blue lake on the Forest Service fellow's recommendation. Yeah, and that was really good, but it also saved a little bit of distance. Basically, when I was guessing that I was going to make it 30 low, this is exactly the campsite I was looking at. So that I did it in 29, I don't care, that's fine. Meanwhile, in doing it in 29, I also incurred a decent little elevation gain by shooting up and over a pass that dropped me into Blue Lake. And all up, this might be the biggest day I've ever hiked. Not in terms of mileage, but with the culmination of 29 miles and 9,000 feet of elevation gain, 8,300 feet of elevation loss. Fair to call that a butt kicker, ladies and gentlemen, but I feel, I mean, decent, I suppose, all things considered. Definitely still alive, if very, very ready to be at camp. So I have not yet really looked ahead at what tomorrow is going to be. Don't really care. I know what tonight's going to be. It's going to be dinner and it's going to be sleep. So, but spirits are high, y'all. Spirits are high. So anyways, that was day 157. Oh, I should also say, this is kind of appropriate in terms of that being probably my biggest day for its culmination or whatever combination of distance, which wasn't my longest distance day by any stretch, but and elevation for sure, which it might have been among my biggest elevation days. It was also day 157, which makes it officially my longest through hike ever today. CDT took 156 days and AT I think was like 152 or something like that, but this is the end of day 157 and I still got more distance yet to go. So yeah, with that, I'm gonna get to it, set up camp, and then cook up some dinner, dig a hole, all that stuff, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.